A goal without action is just a dream. So why is it that when you do act, nothing really happens? Well, maybe you're self-sabotaging. Hey everyone, my name is Nico, and in this channel I talk about how to improve your studying skills and mindset so you can learn languages more effectively. In today's video, we're going to chat about the following: self-sabotage, abandonment, commitment, and the fear that comes with all of those things. This video is more on the psychological side, and it applies to everyday things in addition to language learning. To put it as concisely as possible, self-sabotage is when you do things that you know will hurt you, yet you do them anyway. But why do we do it? Why do we feel inclined to self-sabotage despite knowing that it's going to hurt us? Well, some reasons could be that we can already expect or predict the outcome, so we feel safe in knowing what is going to happen, even though it doesn't serve us in our best interest at all. Sometimes it can give us a false sense of control. Maybe we do it because we learned how to shut down our feelings instead of addressing them. And sometimes we do it when we believe that we don't deserve anything good, whether it's a relationship, a job, literally anything. And so we try to make it fail or make the other person realize that you're not a good fit by doing things that you know the other person wouldn't like. So basically, you have a way out and you can avoid the relationship or activity before it even starts. When someone does this, it's usually because they want to avoid disappointing the other person if the other person gives them a chance. So they just prevent the other person from having a chance at all to form a complete opinion by disappointing them in the beginning. And again, this can show up in a variety of situations, whether it's your friendships, your romantic relationships, your family dynamics, your finances, your studies, but above all, your relationship with yourself. When it comes to managing your tendencies to self-sabotage, it might feel very difficult at first and throughout the whole process, but it is doable. The first thing we need to do is to be aware of our triggers. This includes thinking about who you were with, when the tendency happened, where it was happening, and what you were doing prior to wanting to sabotage the situation. For example, maybe you were feeling emotional in a situation, or you were feeling hormonal, whether it's because you're in your cycle or because you have a physiological or psychological disorder. Maybe you have some unresolved trauma and something's triggering you to want to be avoidant. Like, for example, say someone wants to be your friend or get into a closer relationship with you. And the fact that someone wants to be closer to you scares you. And so you push them away before they even have the chance to know who you are. The next thing I suggest that you do is literally just catch yourself. Whether you're literally biting your cheeks or your tongue, just stop. Whatever you're doing, just stop talking. And instead, we're going to feel our body. Maybe there's a certain part of our body that feels warm or cold. Maybe our stomach feels tight or our heart is racing. If you're feeling a physical symptom, it's likely that panic is settling in, and you might be prone to say or do something that will sabotage and worsen the situation. After we catch ourselves and we basically put a halt in whatever it is that we wanted to say or do, we're going to let a few moments pass because sometimes situations don't require an immediate response. And we're going to think to ourselves, if I say or do this, will I regret it? The answer will probably be yes. And honestly, this is the hardest part because the temptation is there and you really want to do it. We have to control ourselves and we have to regulate. Another way to think about this is, would 80-year-old me be proud of what I am going to do? If the answer is no, then don't do it. If the answer is yes, then do it. But the majority of the time it will be no. But remember, if you find yourself sabotaging again, don't beat yourself up. Don't feel like it's the end of the world. Some people like to say that life tests you, but I find that to be a bit aggressive. Instead, I like to think that life gives you check-ins. So you will be facing the same situation again and again until you realize that you are ready to learn and adopt healthier coping mechanisms and behaviors so that way you don't keep repeating the same patterns. And it's the same thing with self-sabotage. You will be faced with situations where you would want to do it, but until you're ready to change the behavior and do things differently, you just have to keep being patient with yourself. We're all learning, we're all trying, and You're not worse or better than anyone else just because you're going at your own pace. There is no rush to perfection or to being fully healed. But what does matter is that when you realize you're doing something that's hurting you or hurting others, you are actively choosing to do things differently. Now we're going to talk about the fear of abandonment. Yay. So, this one can arise from many things. Maybe a parent abandoned you, or both. Maybe it was a friend. Maybe it was someone who you really cherished. In short, it is a constant fear that regardless of what or who you get close to, it's going to leave you or reject you. And this is kind of related to the avoidance attachment style, where you have this fear of rejection, so you just like disregard everyone out of the fear of getting hurt. Because if you're by yourself, then no one can really hurt you. But that doesn't really help you in the end, because as much as you can avoid others, you can also avoid yourself. As much as you can abandon others, you can abandon yourself. For example, maybe you started a project, but then halfway through you gave it up. Maybe you're trying to make friends, but then you ghost them. Maybe you're overeating or not eating enough. Or you're overfilling your schedule so that way you don't have any time for yourself so you can sit alone with your thoughts. Or you're keeping things inside and not sharing them. Or maybe it's making a lot of goals and plans and not sticking to anything, so in the end, you do nothing. So, how do we manage abandonment? Similarly to how we manage self sabotage, we need to know our triggers. Are you prone to being clingy, people pleasing? Do you feel anxious when someone leaves you, even if it's for a little moment? Do you overthink and obsess if someone's going to leave you? Do you try to communicate a little too often to someone in hopes that they have to think about you because they see your messages all the time? Because you're worried that if they don't see your message or they're not thinking about you, then they're going to completely forget about you. Be mindful, this type of communication that I'm speaking about is not the romantic kind, it's the desperate, fearful kind. So, how do we tackle that? With love, specifically with self love, by showing up for ourselves as often as we can. So that way we can teach our nervous system and our subconscious that we are not abandoning ourselves. For example, you can do something that you like every day for just 5 to 10 minutes. It really doesn't have to be that long, and it doesn't have to be something overly complicated. For example, I like to walk at night, specifically because no one's around. And it's really nice to see the stars between the leaves of the palm trees. But in order to show up for myself, I need to be consistent. We need to be consistent. So instead of doing it once a month, we do it maybe 3 times a week, and then eventually 4 times a week. And if you really enjoy it, or if you really want to push yourself, you can do it every day or every other day. Being consistent builds trust. And so the more consistent you are, the more your nervous system will trust you that you will show up for yourself. And showing up is all about being present and in the moment. And when it comes to fear of abandonment of other people, I highly recommend seeing a psychologist or some type of coach, anyone that you can talk to, a professional specifically, because this is like an emotional disease that if you don't address it, it will plague your life for a very long time. And it will be difficult to get out of it simply because you're so used to this behavior and to this mindset. Next is the fear of commitment. And this is related to the fear of abandonment because if you're worried that people are going to abandon you, then of course you're not going to commit to them. And if you abandon yourself, then you're not going to commit to yourself. And again, this relates to every aspect of your life, whether it's jobs, friendships, relationships with others, and yourself, just like the other fears. And this can be caused by numerous things. For example, maybe you're craving independence, or you're afraid of being vulnerable, or maybe you have past traumas that you haven't fully addressed. It can also show up in not finishing projects, not being loyal or faithful, being emotionally distant, or how I like to say it, being emotionally constipated because you don't want to talk about your feelings, or even having unrealistic expectations of others or yourself. And this one's a tricky one because if you set such high expectations, in the back of your mind, either you or the other person, you can't achieve it. So, by having such a high and unrealistic expectation, there is no room for disappointment because you're already disappointing yourself because you know it's not going to happen. Next is the fear of commitment. So, how can we learn to commit? Well, first, we need to understand the root cause of this fear of commitment that we have. If you're not committing to yourself, you need to ask why and how are you not committing to yourself? See how often it happens and where it's happening in your life, in which areas. If you're stuck in your head and you're preventing yourself from doing anything, because if you do something, it makes it real, then unfortunately or fortunately, the only real thing is to just do it and take action. Because the more you think, the more you're prolonging your inaction. And you won't know how good something can be unless you do act. It's way easier to just sit and fantasize, but we're born to live, not just to dream. Everything mentioned in this video so far, they're things I have struggled with before and I continue to struggle with today, and that I'm actively working on to address and rearrange so that way I don't continue these behaviors. So, the next suggestion I offer is one that I want to highlight with utmost importance. Before you commit to anything or anyone else, you need to commit to yourself. This means giving yourself patience, love, understanding, compassion, and acceptance. Those are a lot of verbs, but trust me, in the end, these are going to be your roots, your foundation, in order to build a healthier relationship with yourself and with others. And in doing so, this will allow us to feel safe within our bodies, safe to trust our instincts and gut feelings about people and situations, and to trust our decisions. This does take time and it requires consistent effort. And we can practice this by committing to one thing on a daily basis. It shouldn't be something simple that you do every day, like washing your hands or brushing your teeth. Rather, it should be something that gives you curiosity, joy, that makes you want to engage with it. For example, if you want to find a way to include movement in your life, then maybe don't start by going to the gym, but maybe do yoga for 5 minutes. So that way there is some movement, whether it's in the beginning, middle, or end of your day. Or maybe you want to learn a new language. Instead of dedicating 1 hour every day or every other day to study, perhaps we can start with 5 minutes or even 10 minutes just to play around with some vocabulary. And later on, once you develop that habit of studying, you can increase your time and explore different facets of the language. In the end, you only have yourself. No one was born with you at the exact same time, and maybe no one is going to die with you at the exact same time. No one else is in your head living your life through your eyes. So, would you rather feel happy in your skin or feel disgusted at everything that you do? The great thing is that it's your choice. Yes, there are some people who have some type of disorder, whether it's physiological or psychological, and they do need medication in order to control their hormones or need to go to therapy in order to learn techniques to manage the things that they find difficult. In the end, it doesn't matter how you choose to heal, whether it's with medication, therapy, self help books, as long as you're doing it in a healthy way that is positive and loving, because you deserve that. And I also want you to be mindful of judgment, especially if you're prone to judging yourself. If you judge yourself, then it's going to feel that all of this was for nothing and you're only holding yourself back. But again, life gives you little check ins. Life isn't testing you, life is never against you. It's with you, it's for you. So we have to learn how to refrain from judging, and we do this by keeping an open mind and having compassion and patience with ourselves. So it's a heavy topic, I know, but it is important to talk about it. And our affirmation for today is I am not my fear. I accept genuine love, light, and trust into my life because I deserve it. Once again, I am not my fear. I accept genuine love, light, and trust into my life because I deserve it. You got this. I love you. I believe in you. And I'll see you next time.